Ashley Brasfield of the Daily Caller joins us to talk about the elections this week, about the shutdown. She covers a lot of Capitol Hill in D.C., lives in our nation's capital. Let's start with this. Government's still shut down. What are the people on the Hill saying? We got air traffic controllers that are now going to get cut down to like 10% of them or something aren't going to be showing up because they're not getting paid. We got chaos at the airports. D.C., what's happening?
Yeah, what I'm hearing just from today, I was just at lunch and with a bunch of staffers, and honestly, they don't even know. They don't know when it's opening is what I'm hearing. And so I don't know what type of, energy that expects, but, a bunch of Democrat senators are actually expecting to meet tonight. So maybe there's a plan there to come. Of course, we saw the Rose Garden meeting with President Trump. We're talking about filibuster and nuking that. So that's part of the conversation happening right now. But it doesn't sound like as of, 3 o'clock today, there's a lot of movement currently.
That's kind of wild because I think the belief on from a lot of places was that as soon as the election's over, like this was all a game to get people upset, do more turnout for Northern Virginia. A lot of government bureaucrats and contractors and such live there. They'll be ticked off. They'll show up and vote. But now we can all stop, right? But it sounds like there isn't some imminent go back to the government as usual strategy. Like where does this end up, you think?
Well, remember, the first marker was these No Kings protests that were happening back in October with Chuck Schumer. We were guessing maybe that was going to be the thing that, set it in motion to where they'd start coming to the table with Democrats to negotiate. And now we had the elections. That's the second marker, right? And now here we have Thanksgiving coming up and nothing seems to be happening right now. So I wonder a lot of the time how much the American people actually believe who's winning the PR stalemate that's going on right now between Republicans and Democrats. It seems like Democrats are starting to be able to hold out. You're starting to wonder, okay, well, are these Senate staffers going to be paid or are the congressional staffers going to be paid? And that's going to be the thing that really, twists their arm to open the government here. But I mean, I've always thought in my mind, when it starts affecting the American people, say Thanksgiving travel, when you're missing flights, when you're not able to, do things and it's widespread, that's my thought is when it starts affecting the American people, which I still think right now, honestly, a lot of American people, I think it's starting to have a effect that they do know there is a shutdown occurring a little bit, but it's now just starting when it comes to what they believe is happening.
Speaking of DC, I was down there. I can't remember. I got back from Taiwan and I went right to DC and I was at the Pentagon and it was, but I just remember it in that order because the shutdown was going on. And it had just started, and the streets were nice and clear, and I could get anywhere in D.C. in 5 minutes. And it also did feel safer to me, and I don't know if that's just because Trump is saying it, and I believe Big Papa Trump, or I don't know. But how is that going? Like the safety component of D.C. with that whole National Guard and all the Trump stuff, has that borne fruit?
I do think so. I think crime has definitely gone down. I mean, I live in Navy Yard in DC, and that's been one of the higher youth crime rate areas in DC specifically. I always see National Guard when I'm getting off the subway and the metro system there. And as a girl that's 25 years old, walking around single, I feel safe that the National Guard's there. Their presence is definitely a deterrence, I would say. On Halloween, you might have seen videos go viral. There was kind of a brawl taking place in Navy Yard, but guess what? National Guard was there to handle it. Police presence is very heavy there. So I think it shows that this is a reoccurring theme, and they can't prosecute much of these juveniles still. We have Janine Pirro in charge, but there's not this essence that they can still go and, it has to be a violent crime in order for them to be prosecuted in any way, or, there's no parents involved. So what's the consequence here for them doing this? So it's
okay.
Sorry.
Have you met Judge Janine yet?
I have not, but I'd love to.
I was going to say, have you interviewed her? She's great. She's a sassy lady, let me tell you.
Yeah.
She's not.
Yeah.
She's got some spunk for sure. You would not want to be a criminal on the wrong side of prosecutor Judge Janine. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, I think she's shown frustration. I can tell this in interviews of not being able to prosecute a lot of these people. I mean, you saw, the Doge guy, Big Balls, has all these, youths go and attack him, and there's hardly any prosecutions. They're getting let off still. So there is still that aspect that's being battled back against. But like the National Guard thing specifically has been a huge deterrence in my opinion, especially where I live. And it's a major Republican area, and you still have this issue in the city. A lot of Republicans live in Navy Yard.
Sponsor here is Birch Gold. You know, gold has been a great investment this year, everybody. It's up about 50% in value. And the last time we saw that kind of an increase in the value of gold was back in 1979, and it was when Americans had really serious inflation problems. So a portion of your savings in gold makes sense. The long-term thesis is strong. Gold is a safe haven in times of instability, and gold is solid. Gold is valuable. Central banks are flocking to gold, and that's why it is at record highs among a whole range of other issues. Birch Gold Group wants to help you get gold. I own gold at home. I buy mine from Birch Gold Group. They can help you convert also an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. You don't pay a dime out of pocket. Just text my name, Buck, to 989898. Claim your free info kit. There's no obligation, just useful information. Text Buck to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold. So you live right across the river, Ashley, from Virginia. I know you know that, but just to situate things, just in case you're unaware, you live very close to Virginia. Yeah, you can actually take the metro to Virginia if you want to. And the Virginia race was, I think, the one that we weren't expecting that Republicans were, at least I wasn't expecting that Republicans were going to win it, but I did think it would be closer, and particularly on the AG side, be closer. What's kind of your after action report on what went wrong for the GOP ticket in Virginia?
Yeah, so I think when it comes down to the arguments being made right now, they talk a lot about the cultural issues. There was too much of a shift on the cultural issues with, transgenderism playing that major factor. We saw this in 2021, the debate moment with Terry McAuliffe against Glenn Youngkin. You got to remember during that time period, we were coming out of COVID. A lot of parents were angry at these school board meetings. So I think just setting that up alone kind of shows the difference culturally, what was going on in the moment. I think there was a lot of focus still there, and I think people do care about it. But also, I think this government shutdown probably played a factor. There was multiple things, but I think you're right about the AG race. I think we were all very shocked about that. I covered it extensively, and I guess I had concern about how many voters were actually aware of what was going on. And I found there was a CNN exit poll that I found very fascinating. It was a 55% of women voted in favor of Jay Jones in Virginia. And so, you put a lot of thought into that after the reckless driving charge, a special prosecutor being put on him, as well as the violent text. And that came right after Charlie Kirk's assassination. So I question how much the message actually got out. You have the factor that a lot of people don't show up for midterms, low propensity voters showing up within the state, as well as early voting, and that taking place it was an October surprise, came in October 1st and October 3rd. Those two kind of reports dropped, and there was still early voting already occurring. So I think it is a broad, complex picture of what actually happened there. I do think it was a GOP failure due to the fact that we took back the state in 2021, and we could have fought harder for it in this election specifically.
Was there a sense that the Winsome Sears campaign was underperforming what the GOP expectations were for Virginia, or was it essentially what was thought to be possible? Like, how would you gauge how that one ended up?
I'll be completely honest. I think the excitement behind the candidate was lacking. I think there was a push from the presidential side to give an endorsement with Mieres. Sears came later. He didn't name her. It was in a gaggle on Air Force One that came. It was only about 2 or 3 weeks before the election happened. So I think that those two things played a factor. I don't know how much that would have gained for her, but I do think as a candidate, the excitement, and then, like I said before, the Terry McAuliffe moment really was that push over the edge for Youngkin to take the lead there in the final days of that election, in my opinion. And that's the thing, though. We saw a debate performance with Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Sears. And Winsome Sears dominated Spanberger in that debate performance. It's just, I think the question is that early voting and low propensity voter aspect in that state that was very interesting. I think it differed a lot from the New Jersey and New York City mayoral elections. And I think that's the one that Republicans really need to take a hard look at, I would say.
Well, that's perfect, because I want to ask, because you're 25 and you're a woman, and yet my sense is, as you work at the Daily Caller, you are not a huge Zohran person. So I'm going to need you. I'm going to need you to speak for your demo in a moment here and tell me about the Ladies for Zohran phenomenon to the degree you can. We'll get there here.
Hot girls for Zohran. Hot girls.
Was there really a thing called Hot Girls for Zohran?
Yeah, the Hot Girls for Zohran shirts. Still, Bill de Blasio was wearing one, Buck.
Well, this is a great tease for what we're going to talk about in a second. But first up, our sponsor is Paradigm Press. I've launched something that's really exciting, everybody, totally separate from the radio show and the podcast, a newsletter that deals with politics and money and the markets. It's called Money and Power. And the thesis that we're forwarding has to do with the massive investments in AI and what I'm calling Manhattan Project 2. I'm pulling together all the contacts, knowledge, know-how I have with the best team I can find of stock researchers. And the portfolio we've pulled together from this past year has been incredibly successful. Go check out for yourself exactly what I'm talking about. Insider2025.com is the website. Now, this is a subscription, and there's a small fee attached to it, but it is so worth it. We are putting so much effort into this project, and we have thousands and thousands of subscribers already who are loving what they are getting from this. Insider2025.com. That's Insider2025.com, paid for by Paradigm Press. Tell me about Hot Girls for Zohran. How did this happen?
I know, we got to get you a shirt, obviously, for that, like de Blasio. This, I think it's part of the greater social media campaign that Zohran was running with TikTok. He kind of did pull from that Trump aspect a little bit there, obviously completely different in certain ways. But I think it's really interesting with this election. What we have to look at was who was voting for him, specifically in New York City. And it's the highly educated women, highly educated men, and then kind of transplants and immigrants, really, that came into the city in the last 10 years. And so I think we have to kind of break that down. How did we lose that? Do they not believe in the capitalist system to where they're now voting for socialist policy? So I think it is like not a one answer solution here. I think you have to take a hard look at how that was successful. And then also the battle happening right now between the Democrat Party with the establishment and I would say the more progressive wing, Bernie Sanders, the Graham Planters in Maine right now, Zohran Mamdani, AOC. So I think it is more of a complex issue. And how do we actually approach those voters as a Republican Party? Because I do think there is a sense that Republicans need to get ready for 2026.
Do you have any of your peers who have taken like a 2-bedroom in Murray Hill in New York and split it 5 ways and are going through that whole process? Because I do think one of the challenges of being a young person. So I've been a young person in D.C. and a young person in New York. D.C., right, just so you know, way better in terms of affordability. So you're you're in a much better situation there. I felt like I was living in a palace in D.C. and then paying a lot more rent for a lot less in New York City. But there's also, I think, an argument where people need to look at this like not everyone can live in the trendiest neighborhoods or their favorite places in the most expensive city in America. And Zohran telling them that he's going to manage this, when Zohran's talking about building more affordable housing, the people who are voting for Zohran, like this yuppie demographic that we're talking about here, they don't want to live where the affordable housing is being built. I don't think they understand that.
No, exactly. And I think you have these people that are, once again, highly educated, but are getting these degrees that really aren't applicable, that you can get a job. You're probably going to go get a job at somewhere in Brooklyn at a coffee shop, right? And you still have, these highly educated, over-decorated people. By the way,
you have to have a lot of tattoos, male or female, at the Brooklyn coffee shop. I don't know how much you know Brooklyn, but like they like to get little tattoos on their wrists now too, like little tiny ones.
Yeah, it's like a doodle all over their body.
Yeah,
so
I don't know
feel
what's
like a little
going on, but that's what the cool kids are doing. That, and you also, I'm going to tell you something. Now I'm going to get off my lawn, but I need you to spread the word to your generation for me here. The big jeans on the ladies. I've tweeted about this. This is a disaster. This is a disaster. Okay, all these girls are going to hate every photo that they are taking. The hot girls for Zohran, everybody else, every photo they take in jeans that they look like the MC Hammer pants from the 90s, like they're giant, they're oversized. It looks horrible. They might as well be wearing a burqa. I don't know what else to say. I need you to help spread the word. This is madness.
I know that's not fashion, unfortunately. I think another point I want to make too, Zohran Mamdani's wife is already being made into a celebrity. She's kind of got this certain look to her, but that's kind of what all the females in New York City that are voting for Zohran Mamdani look like. So there is that translation happening there, in my opinion, whereas on the right, we have people like Melania Trump, and they're just complete opposites, in my opinion. So when you come to the cultural factor, with Zohran, what's happening in New York, he's this cultural phenomenon that they're using the TikTok. He's young, immigrant coming in. So I think, they have to be able to, Republicans, go out to that demographic and talk to them specifically with even in these blue cities and be like, hey, we have this solution. maybe we can give it, help you out rather than voting for a Democrat at this point. But I think Republicans are have to get gritty in order to get there.
I'm going to give you something a little crazy but true. If you looked at my bookshelf here, I have a lot of stuff on different totalitarian regimes, Soviets, Maoist China, and that's just like a fascination of mine. Dressing women in ways that effectively nullifies or neutralizes their gender and attractiveness and female sensuality. This is the truth. Is a thing the communists did. They wanted to, you were supposed to, like, if you were in the Maoist revolution, you're supposed to dress in a very basically male, like very plain, boxy way. And I think that these boxy jeans are like a Zohran plot to make all chicks ugly. I think this is horrible. So I'm just telling you, this is very bad.
Yeah. No, it is bad. But I'm glad you brought up those books, because I think that's another factor. None of my generation, when I was in college or high school, went out of their way to read those books. It's kind of, you have to find that on your own. Nobody's giving you Dostoevsky to read, to talk about the gulags in socialist Russia, USSR at the time. So it is this idea that the education system is also failing us. I have an MBA, I have a bachelor's degree myself. I was never given any of that stuff to talk about. So I had to go find that on my own, or I was raised by people that would give it to me. So that's where we're also failing, is just education system of these areas like socialist Russia, Cuba, and all these failed states that have had socialism be put into place. So that, we talk about that all the time in conservative politics, but that's also the message. We have to relook at the education of these things, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah, I think very few people know, very, very few people know that the greatest mass starvation / mass murder event of the 20th century, 40 to 60 million people, was completely self-imposed in China, 1958, 1962. I think that's something that people should know, especially as we're like, hey, China's a problem. It's like, oh, China's got big problems if you look at the CCP and its history. But that's a whole nother podcast that we'll have to do sometime. I want to ask you about where things are going toward the end of the year, end of this Congress, whatever they call it, when they're all there doing their jobs, which they don't do very much.
Actually working.
Yeah, actually working. We'll get to this here in a second. But our sponsor is Hillsdale College. The American Revolution didn't just happen. The colonists didn't just wake up one day in 1776 and declare independence. There's 150 years of history that made that revolution possible. My friends, we need to know our history. And we were just talking about this. And most of us don't even know the Declaration of Independence marks the beginning of America as an independent nation. You walk around the street, you ask these questions, you'd be shocked at the level of historical ignorance that exists in this country. Hillsdale College wants to be the cure for this malady. They've got mini-series that are completely free and easy to access, 40 other free online courses, including a course on C.S. Lewis, stories in the book of Genesis, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/buck to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/buck to enroll for free. Go check it out. Great for your kids. Great for any of us. Good to go up and go back and brush up on this stuff. All right, so what happens here from till the end? We got Thanksgiving coming up, Christmas. No one's going to pay attention to what's going on in politics after that, or leading up to that, really. When does this Congress finish up, and are they going to do anything worthwhile? Assuming the government gets turned back on, which I guess is going to happen soon. Let's assume the government is back. What happens then? What are they trying to do before the end of the year?
I think the appropriations bills has been something that they've touched on a little bit, but of course that comes down to whether the government opens back up. I did an exclusive piece today with Joni Ernst, and she put forth a package looking at a bill that would cut a bunch of COVID relief that's still being spent uselessly, really. And I think it's 7 times more than what the rescission package was that they originally put through. I think it was about $9 billion, so 7 times that. So that's something I think that would be necessary, considering COVID was years ago at this point. So that's a good step forward, in my opinion. And so with the president after this election, I keep hearing this buzzword, which is affordability. So I think the concentration should really be on that. It seems like the administration understands that from this election, that Americans need to have something that's palpable, where they see those costs lowering. When you go into the grocery store, you're not seeing those astronomical prices. And I think that I would say that's probably one of the main policy goals you're going to see from the administration pushing on Congress, and vice versa, maybe.
Ashley Brasfield, where can everyone go to follow your work?
You can follow me on X at Brasfield Ashley, and Instagram, Ashley E. Brasfield.
Excellent. Thank you.